Welcome to the East Bridgewater School Committee meeting of January 24th, 2023. And at this time, I take a motion to open the meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Amanda.
Second?
Second by Gordon. All in favor?
Aye.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And thank you, EBCAM, for always live streaming and recording our meetings. And first up, we have Leila Fagundes, our student rep.
Good evening. So yesterday was the start of term 3, so it's very exciting to be on the end stretch of the year, or the second half to start it. So we had some new elective classes and some senior privileges starting yesterday. Report cards will be available on Friday, so that's exciting. The Central School has their booster-thon this week, so they're looking to learn some key qualities while participating in that. All of the sports teams are doing well with continuing play and playoffs coming up. The last thing I have tonight is that on Friday, myself, as long as some other students, got to attend a MIAA diversity and inclusion event. So we learned a lot, and the speakers were amazing, and the presenters. It was a great day overall, and we learned some valuable things to take back to the schools. That's all I have. Not a ton tonight, but yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you gotta go cheer.
Yes, I'm going to go
Okay.
cheer.
Have fun cheering.
Thanks, Leah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And next up, we have an update from the Educational Philosophy of the District Standing Committee or Subcommittee.
Okay. We were trying to meet before the meeting. We didn't make that happen. I forgot to post it. So what's our next meeting, on the 14th of February? We should have something together. Then we're going to get together and take the feedback. Mrs. Williams circulated our draft copy to all the schools and got feedback from all of them, and so we're going to take a look at that when we sit together again and come up with a finalized version of the draft and then present it to the whole committee. So we should be able to do that by the 14th. So.
Okay, thank you. And next up, Superintendent's Corner.
Sure. Let me just begin by stating we're going to talk about the lockdown that happened last week and the security and safety of the entire district. I think that my letter on Sunday evening, and I hope that people understand that after reflection of the week, that sometimes you have to pump the brakes as a leader. On Friday night and on Friday, we had kids that went to the MIAA Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Summit with over 400 students throughout the district, or throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And you just heard about it. I don't see Ms. Fagundes' notes prior to this meeting, so it did mean something. And it does mean something that when our kids go off campus and they go someplace else to learn about diversity, equity, inclusion, or when seniors go over to the Central School and work with the preschool, or you get to go and highlight an event like the Lion King. I don't know if anybody saw it, or anybody was out there, or anybody went to, anyone went to the performance on Friday night or Saturday. I think Dr. Williams was at the 1 p.m. I was at the Friday night. It was outstanding. It was fun. Mickey Lasley was awesome as usual, and all of her crew was awesome that was there and helping and supporting. But the most important thing is our parents filled that auditorium up to watch their children perform. And even with the events of the week that stopped our school district for a moment in time, that we got through as a community of learners at the district and a community overall in East Bridgewater, we were able to come to school, to keep moving forward, to get the buses rolling, to go to diversity, equity, inclusion, to get to Central School for their seniors to go over there and to work with the kids on posters, to go to have the Lion King, to have a basketball game, and then things that happen over the weekend and in the gymnasium and all the other great things that are going on. Because that's who we are. The goal for the district, as I lead the district, will be to be pro-solutionary and not be counterproductive and not feed in to anything else, but let's find solutions and be part of the solutions and not be part of the problem. I do want to thank all of you on the school committee for your support, your patience, and your commitment to myself and the vision of the district, that we worked together and that you understood that my first telephone call to Mrs. Pennington, my second call to Mrs. Pennington to be able to get to all of you, and then at the end to be able to just share with you a little bit of what had happened. The East Bridgewater Police Department worked with us in tandem. I want to thank Chief O'Brien, his force. They were tremendous as we worked through what we believed, what we know to be heinous and threatening and wrong. But again, we got past it with the help of our police department, our help of our community, our help with our teachers were fantastic. They stayed with us, they listened. We, on Monday, had a meeting and thought about all the things that we can do to make it better, to make it easier. We know that people had asked us about more communication. It's just like when we talk about students. We can't give all this information out, and I think I talked about that in the letter. Just a reminder, these are our kids, and they're somebody's child. They're going to be loved, they're going to need support, and we're going to be here for them, but they also have their parents. Let them work this out with their children, and we will support them. I did say in my letter, we need to be more proactive with our children. Look at their phones, look at their social media apps, call other parents. If you say you're going to the Smith's house, make sure you're going to the Smith's house. Tell the truth. And we'll tell the truth when it comes to issues here at the school district, and we'll continue to work. I want to thank the community. I want to thank all of you. I want to let everybody know, we, as a district, will take every threat, every picture, every phone call, every text message that is threatening or abusive to this district as a threat. We will take it as fact, we will take it as truth, and we will work through the motions until we do the investigatory process and get on to the other side. When you threaten a school, you will be held accountable. There are two ways that this goes. The police department have their investigation and their investigatory process, and they will do their job. That is up to them. When that is done, we will do our job, and we will work on our side, and we will do what we need to do to keep all children safe, just like the police. But I want everyone to know, when we do this, there is a process, we will follow, and we will keep every student safe. It is not a joke to me. It is not a joke to any parent who had a child go home that was nervous in a classroom last week. So if anybody thinks it's a joke, it is not. And we're not going to take it that way. And so on Friday, as you can hear my voice, that I was frustrated and upset, I put the brakes on and thought to myself, I don't want to add to this problem. I want to be a solutionary, and I want to be a problem solver. I didn't call anybody. I got in my car, I went home, I got to see a game, I got to see The Lion King, I talked to a young man and Mr. Leonard on Friday about going to the summit at Holy Cross and how wonderful it was and how happy that we sent them. That's what's important. Yes, it is important to all of us to hear these things and to know what's going on. But we also, it's important to make sure that students have our commitment, our consistency, and be able to be supported to keep schools moving in the right direction. So I want to thank you. If you have any questions for me, I will answer those questions. I think we've answered most of them. I think we've had conversations throughout the week. I think we're in a good place. I know we're moving forward. Dr. Williams and I have had conversations about Alice training. We've had conversations about things that we might have could do better. John Shea talking about grants and cybersecurity and talking about security. We've had these conversations for the last couple of days, and what we could do better, and what capacity do we have with our technology in the buildings, in all buildings, at the high school, the Mitchell School, and Central School. If we want to give out messages, can we take over your cell phones? Can we take over the TVs and the smart boards? And those are things that we're going to work through and that we'll continue to talk about. It is frustrating, and I know that parents were waiting to hear and wanted more information. But we also have people here that are in the building that my focus, my attention, my support, and my commitment to Mr. Clements and his team as they work through this, or Mrs. Byrne and her team, or Mr. Paquette and his team to work through it, and of course, working with Chief O'Brien and his force, his police force, to allow everybody to work through it and to be part of the solution and not be part of the problem, and to hinder any progress as we move forward.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So I had some people that were concerned that there were children out on the Central School playground while the high school was locked down. And could you just comment on that, or?
Sure, I do. At the time that Chief O'Brien and I were, I had made the decision. I make the decision, and I made the decision, along with the input of Chief O'Brien, and we had a conversation. At that time, I directed Dr. Williams to then go ahead and call the Central and Mitchell School to tell them that the junior, senior high school would be going into lockdown, that they were not going into lockdown, although they would go into a safe mode, and that to both principals that they would be vigilant in staying next to the phones and waiting for any directive coming from my office through Dr. Williams. So Dr. Williams talked to both schools. At the first time, she talked directly to the Central School. Mrs. Polisi called the Mitchell School so that we would do them in tandem, and then Dr. Williams took over at that point on both schools to make sure that everybody there was no lockdown, and we did not call in. At that time, we were still in lockdown here, and a reminder, at the time of the day that we were in, it was lunchtime. So people at the high school are moving. They're all about on the same time. Central and Mitchell were both in there, whether they were out of recess, whether they're out at the lunchtime recess, or they were out in gym. So we knew that. We knew where we were in the investigatory process. We knew what we had here. We knew that we were going into lockdown here. We knew the other buildings did not need to be in lockdown, but needed to be safeguarded, and needed the principals to hear from Dr. Williams saying that you'll wait for a directive and to be vigilant, to stay next to your offices, and to be on point, to wait for us.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions about that? No? Thank you.
You're welcome. So you have that, and then just on a side note, because it's my corner, the other day, a parent had called me and came in and sat down with me, talked to me about our library and some of the reading materials or the books that are in our library, and asked if we had a policy. We have a policy. We also have in our high school handbook, we have we also have a process and a protocol and process to follow on asking if a book should be in the library, not be in the library, what content do we have in the library, and what are we going to allow. So this tonight, it was not on your agenda, so I'm just bringing it to your attention. I'm also bringing to the attention that I've sent you, I just handed out to you the school committee policy. I know, Mr. Clements, you gave me the same thing. I was looking for yours, your hand, yeah. So, Mr. Clements and I talked about it. He's going to look into it, and then we'll get back to the parent who had contacted my office, and we'll go from there. This isn't uncommon. We've seen it across the state, we've seen it across the country. We have 14,000 books in this library, and I think we were told about 70,000 books that we can
Access through the network.
through the network. So there are a lot of materials that kids can read or go look up or buy on Amazon. They're not just from here, but we'll look into this, and we'll come back on how this book, there was one book brought to my attention. There may be more that will be brought to our attention. The book that was brought to my attention, I'll look into and see how it was vetted. There was an initial conversation. My initial conversation, as you know, I would go to Dr. Williams on instruction, curriculum, see where this book was, and did she know about these materials in the books, and then we go to Mr. Clements, and then Mr. Clements will work his way down. I know that he started that process today because we've already had that conversation. However, I will bring it forward to the next time to complete the circle, but I will get back to a parent who contacted my office on it.
Are you able to discuss what the book was, or the title of the book? That was-
I will when we get, not tonight, but I will have it. But I just want to sort of just give you an outline that I did get called. A school district up the street had the same thing, I think back in, I want to say November. They went through looking at some titles and some literature that they had in their libraries. It's funny that Dr. Williams and I were at a meeting a few weeks ago, and I don't know, Dr. Williams, you want to chime in about the discussion with Norwell? Prior to this even coming to my attention.
Right, so I actually wasn't aware that we had a formal process in our high school handbook, and Norwell has just completed developing a process based off of their policies. So when I came back to the district, I spoke with Mrs. Tucker, our library media specialist here, and she referenced the process that we have here. It hasn't been utilized in, at least her last 15 years. When it's come to library books, but it definitely gives us an opportunity to relook at our process, make sure it aligns with your policies, and certainly implement it if the time and need comes for us to.
It's just more of to get it out there on the table. And I just want parents to know that if you find something that you want to talk to me about, please call my office and come in and talk to me about it. I want to hear it. I want to look into it. I knew we had a policy. I then went to Dr. Williams, and she said, matter of fact, I was looking into this prior to this due to conversations that have come around in the Commonwealth, and a couple school districts around us have already gone through this and had conversations about this. And she brought into me the handbook policy, and I'll get back to this parent tomorrow and tell them a little bit about and where to find it and what I have for them, and then in a later meeting, we'll bring it up.
Okay.
I just want all this to let you know, we do have snow coming, and I know that this is always on everybody's agendas. When will we call school? If there were to be a snow day, I will make the call no later than 6 a.m. We tried to make it I work with Brian Kiley, I work with John Haynes from the DPW. We have conversations back and forth. I do work with the Lighthouse Group, which is school districts right around us, West Bridgewater, Bridgewater, Rainham, Abington, Norwell, Hingham, Silver Lake. There's Duxbury, there's a bunch of us that work together. We try to decide what's the best for all of us, and we try to best, not only for our students and our families to get the information to you, but to our teachers and staff who don't live close and where they're coming from. So there is some snow coming, but it looks like it will be out of here in time for Thursday morning commute. So knock on wood. But just know, if I do make the call, I try to make it as early as possible to give everybody heads up. So, and that's all I have for you, Mrs.
Joe,
Pennington.
there's one retiree.
Oh, yeah. So, these are bittersweet when you get these in your emails, and then you go down and talk to a retiring teacher. Joe McLaughlin from the Gordon W. Mitchell School is going to retire on June 30th, 2023. I did go down and see Mrs. McLaughlin last week. I found her down in the 5th grade, I believe. I think I was in the 5th grade, or 4th grade. I was in the 4th grade, and I went down and I found her in a classroom, and we had a nice conversation. And I always know when the teachers made the right decision at the right time, because it is bittersweet for them as well. They're happy, they're smiling until I shake their hand or give them a hug and say, I wish you the best of luck, and we'll support you through this, and we'll help you with MTRS, and we'll get your retirement going here with you. And you see them choke up a little bit. So I want to wish Mrs. McLaughlin the best of luck, and in June, before they leave, we'll have our retirees in. I'd like to accept that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's nice to see some people in our little audience there. If anyone's here for public comment section, we have a clipboard on the table over there. If you could just write your name down, that would be very helpful. Thank you. Next up, we have reports and discussions. We have Mr. Shea, who's going to talk to us about the FY23 budget and give us an update.
I will be very brief tonight. Page 1 is the operating budget status as of January 19th, 2023. We have an available balance on the non-salary budgeted account of $591,353. Last year at this time, we had an available balance of almost $250,000, so we are significantly higher than last year. Just want to make one note that we had an unexpected, unbudgeted tuition that we just incurred, so that will reduce that available balance right off the bat, $120,000. So instead of $591,000, it's really $470,000. It just, that tuition just hasn't been encumbered yet. Salary, we have an available balance of $11,600,000. As you know, we don't encumbrance that. We don't accrue salaries. Maybe someday, if the town gets a budgeting software, which I think they're looking at, so we may be able to do that in the future. But I do model that every pay period, and I feel comfortable, like last year and in the years before, that we will meet budget on the salary side. Page 2 is the revolving fund balances. Really, last couple months, nothing significantly has changed in these balances. Circuit breaker has increased up to $387,000, but that was expected. School choice is hanging pretty steady to last year and fiscal year 21. Athletic fund is high compared to year end, but that's because a lot of the expenses for the winter sports and the spring sports haven't hit, but the revenue has. That's why you see an athletic revolving fund balance of 82,000 compared to year-end last year of 46. Preschool is in a positive balance, which is great news. Sped tuitioned in revolving, that's an adjustment that I made that just hasn't been reflected in the software accounting system yet, so that will be zero at year end. The other revolving fund, school building rental, we've been using that fund for some emergency purchases in the auditorium, the stadium, the gym, sound system, so that's why you see a slight decrease in that account, but we are going gangbusters over the next 3 or 4 months with rentals in our auditorium, so that fund will be back up. All the other funds are pretty much similar to where they were last month, and pretty close to where they were at year end. Anyone have any questions on anything? We're working on the budget every day. We will continue to work on the budget every day for the next 2 or 3 months, so we are busy.
I just want to add with John, Jay Fallon I've moved Jay to the table. As you know, he's the Director of Special Education. He needs to be at the table. There's been a lot of times that conversation has come up about social emotional or child on an IEP or a circuit breaker, or he has about $3.3 million of the budget that goes to special education. It's important for him to be at the table. It's hard for myself, Dr. Williams, or John to adequately talk to what's happening on that side and with what the needs are of the students, because we're hearing about it. We have meetings with Jay. John and Jay meet probably daily on a lot of things when it comes to circuit breaker and allocation of funds, and I know that Dr. Williams meets with Jay a lot as well as I do, but it's important. They are our students. We're all our students. We've gone into full inclusion, and we have some out-of-district placements. We have new programs, and I wanted you to know that we'll get them a nameplate. We'll get them a oh, we got a microphone and a microphone. But I did move Jay to the table. I think it's important for him to be here. It's important for us, or for you as a school committee. I know that you recognize and I know that you understand that side, but I want everyone to know that I recognize the needs of this district, and Jay recognizing that he needs to be at this table too, so that he can handle some of the questions that come through. So that's why you see him here this evening. He doesn't have a big report to tell us or anything. It was just so that he can, that he can support us when we talk about some of the programming and some of the allocation of funds.
Thank you.
I just had a question, John, on the circuit breaker. We're up a bit over where we ended the year last year. My understanding is that circuit breakers are always, they're offset. We don't, they're not day for day, obviously. So we're reaping the payback from school year last year?
Yes.
Correct. Okay. And so that number, are you always pretty much dead on what that number is? There's no surprise there? You say, oh, they owed us this and we got it?
Yeah, no, we have the schedule ahead of time. We track it annually. There's a certain amount of money I need to spend every year in circuit breaker.
Right.
So I won't, if I don't spend that money, we give it back to the state. So
Okay.
we track circuit breaker annually, and also what we have been using for the last 6 years is the circuit breaker funds to prepay for tuitions next year, which is allowed by the state.
Okay. Thank you.
Well,
Next up, we have Mr. Clements. So where can he sit?
On my seat?
Maybe,
Oh.
there's no.
Lila?
Here, take this.
Oh, no, we got that. We got you.
You're here to talk to us about a few things.
Good evening, or yes, I think there's a couple of things on for me. Good evening, everybody.
Welcome.
Why don't, I'm ready to go. What, committee, just tell me what they'd like to,
Slow clap.
what
All
they'd
of
like.
it.
Yeah.
International travel.
So I don't, no, thank you. All right, so the first thing on my list is the possibility of international travel. So I'm here on behalf of a couple of our staff members who have come forward. They are ready to go with a description of a trip that they would like to put forward in the event that this committee and Superintendent Legault are willing to consider it. Right now, one of the things that's on the table, and this is, you know, at least 12 months out, like 14 to 16 months, depending on where we are, a potential trip to Costa Rica that would be run by Mr. Mollis, one of our science teachers. My understanding, and I would defer to those that have been in the district longer than I, that a similar trip has run in the past, I do believe, and it could even have been maybe when Mr. Mollis was a student here.
It was planned.
Oh, okay.
And then it was canceled due to COVID.
Okay.
A parent who still has 10% of their money.
Yes, so I think many, many years ago, there were, but this would be a focus on largely like the environmental science, the, more of a scientific focus, climate, all of that sort of thing. So that's one, and the other that is in discussion, and there are some ideas, it's with Miss Seeley, who is our lead teacher in the World Language Department. That would be a trip that's being proposed to Spain and Italy. So each of those, I think where we are, there is still some flexibility. I think one of them, they might be looking at doing a trip in April, maybe sometime lining up somewhere around the April break of April 2024, I think, if I'm getting those years right. And the other one potentially sometime in June. Both of them are aware together. I don't think either person, I don't really think that there's going to be many students that, for a variety of reasons, one of them financial, would be looking to go on both trips. But at the same time, from a management standpoint, they recognize, like, if there's a conversation that starts, like, we'll play nice, we'll work, we'll see what we need to do, but probably not at the same time. And they have proposals that they have submitted, and if the committee is ready to hear them, they would be more than happy to come, present them. I know the biggest question, or anticipating one, might be around COVID and what would happen. And again, not to be tongue-in-cheek, I think since I have been in this role, there was a conversation a year or two ago, and the situation in the world and close to home was very different. And I think the situation is likely to be very different a year out. And so admittedly, I'm not up to speed in terms of what the international travel restrictions, regulations, expectations are now, nor what they would be. But
Excuse me, Mr. Clemens, that's the point that I was curious about. I know we have our own criteria to meet before we consider a trip like this. But what occurred to me is it either on us or the agency that's going to be taking the kids overseas? Do they check with the State Department right up until the end to see if the State Department approves travel to that particular region of the world, or?
my understanding is that they do, and I think one of the benefits, regardless of whatever agency you are working with, is their selling point is they are well seasoned in terms of international travel, international student travel, and just like anything else, I think one can plan for just about anything. And there are different insurance policies should something change. At a previous district, I was, again, it was well before COVID, there was a trip to France planned right around the time of the nightclub shooting, which was obviously tragic, but that wound up being refunded because it was considered an act of terrorism. So there's such a wide array of policies that are looked into, provisions that they're able to put into place. And I do think, too, that they would be, and I would be very curious, what provisions what questions can they not answer? And I would want to know that, too. Because I told the families of the 8th grade that are going to Washington, D.C., which is still a little closer to home, I was joking, but I wasn't. I won't sleep until those kids are back here. You know, until they are home. I told my wife, my phone's going to be loud. It's going to be next to me. I get a text, a ding. I'm going to be looking to see what's going on. But I do know that they do take a look at that.
Yeah, I know from my point of view, that's the threshold question I would have as we get closer to any given date, that either we or a representative of that agency comes forward and says, yes, we're connected to the State Department.
Yep.
There's a go, no-go
Right.
phone call, and just, you know, as we certainly are well aware of, safety is number one concern, and so the State Department, that's what they do.
Yep.
And so I just wanted to make sure that's in the equation.
Sure.
So, thank you.
Of course, I think it is there, and the other thing that Ms. Celia Demalis did ask me to mention is, and it's, just ask and be polite and say please, but the earlier that it could potentially be considered, I think allows potential fundraising opportunities because there is a cost associated with the trips, and they would rather have an advance notice to start looking. What I did, without speaking with this group or Superintendent Legault, I did say, well, in the initial stages, it would have to be very tentative. It might be, we could start, and as we draw closer, obviously, timelines will need to be adhered to, decisions may need to be finalized, and, it's almost like it might start as a maybe.
Well, I'm a little confused, and maybe I'm not following. So my understanding would be that the department, the language department,
Yep.
whatever, would put together the pro forma and then present to us.
Correct.
I don't think we just blanket say, yeah.
Correct. I didn't mean
let's go.
to.
So
Yes.
I think that, unless I'm wrong, that to me is the first step.
Mm-hmm.
To say, here we are, this is what we're organizing behind.
Yep.
How does this look? Does the school committee have any questions? And then with that, it moves forward.
Correct.
Bill came to me, Mrs. Sealy's come to me, Bill came to me. The reason I asked them to come out without that paperwork or where they were going to go was just to see, are we entertaining to going abroad on international travel? Are we going to allow kids outside? If you give them the go-ahead, then he can go back, and so they can contact EF Tours or whoever, the tour company that we're going to use, to put the itinerary together, to put the pricing together. Then they'll come forward and say, we'd like to go to Spain and Italy or Costa Rica. And they'll have that itinerary ready. I don't want them to go through, I don't want it to be an exercise and then have you say, we never even were going to consider going outside the country due to COVID.
Yeah,
So
that's fair.
I
That makes
wanted him to
sense.
come forward to you this evening. He was going to be here the last time on a couple other issues. I said, let's just bring it up. Let's ask to see, would they entertain listening to this, and would they think that they would allow us to go out of the country?
So what would we do? Just have a discussion now and get a sense of where the committee is?
Tentatively.
Okay.
But I'm interested, have you heard about any other districts? Or no, everybody else is probably in the same boat and they're all just starting now too?
I think everybody's in exactly the scenario we are, looking around to see what other districts are doing. I will tell you that there are conversations happening in nearby districts and speaking to other nearby principals. And I think it really is the time of year where, like on principal listservs and things like that, it's like, we're in conversation with our school committee, we're in conversation with ours. As soon as we hear something, we'll let you know, so.
So tentatively, is there an appetite?
Do we need a
I
motion?
don't, as of this moment, I don't see a reason not to hear about these things, because I would hate, I mean, I can totally see the justification for needing to get the ball rolling sooner rather than later. And I don't want to say no. I just don't see a reason, I don't see a justification for that.
When do you think they would bring us their presentation?
They will be here as soon as you are ready to hear it. Like, they've put some stuff together already. They're ready.
They're in the hallway.
Those are the two exact trips.
Yes,
We're just waiting.
Those two trips. They're not here tonight. However, Ms. Damalis has a rough draft of something for the Costa Rica trip, and Ms. Seeley has a rough draft of something specifically for the Spain and the Italy trip.
We have a February 7th, February 14th, and what's the first, I don't know what the
We'll
first.
come back.
February 14th is the next.
We'll come back with a time for you.
Okay.
Let Mr. Clements talk to his teachers, make sure they have all the information, and, last time, I think Grand Classroom came one time as well, so, I mean, they might, EF Tours, or, I don't know the other tour company, but whoever is, I would not be surprised if we would see some of the tour companies come the first time that they talk to you, or the second time that they talk to you, because they lost a lot of confidence. I can tell you that. Maura Healey, who is now our governor, she went after them, all the tour companies, for not giving the money back to Dr. Williams. For her Costa Rica
I still
trip.
haven't seen it.
Well, call her up, she'd like to,
Those were the two exact trips that were planned. So there was a Spain-Italy trip
Yep.
planned as well as a Costa Rica. So I would assume they've got, from
Yes.
Still have
cover
it
to
there, ready to
Yep.
go, yeah.
good plan.
I was
So
wrong.
I-
I think that's important for me to hear when I think about that, because obviously COVID changed things, but I'm thinking about like other safety concerns. So this was already vetted in ways prior to COVID for safety. Safety hasn't changed gigantically, right? When you think about pre-COVID versus now in terms of, well, in my mind, in my anxious mind. So I also would prefer a trip to a bunker where everyone stays still. So that would be lovely too.
I have a napkin here.
Oh, napkin. No, I'm good. I have this.
So do you,
I have at least one. I have at least one napkin.
tell she's an adjustment, Kelsey. There's
so
no
do you want
problems
to
here.
just take
We'll
a
get
straw
through this.
vote?
Not a big
goodness.
deal.
Amanda.
I said, your social worker came out and said, came out and said, there's no problem here.
There isn't. I'm just keep
Big
talking.
deal, let's just keep talking.
Absolutely. We're all very calm.
I don't know if we're going to take a vote or whatever, but I would be in alignment
both.
with
That was
what
very
Lauren just said, that I don't see any reason at this point in time to say absolutely not. Certainly entertain it. Sure. I do have my concerns, as I mentioned earlier, so as long as those are addressed in a reasonable and professional way, then I'd certainly entertain it, so.
I was wrong, it's the 14th and the 28th of February.
I will speak to the teachers and then speak with Ms. Legault, and so that's.
We'll get it
Do
on.
you want to get the others' points of view?
How are you feeling?
Ditto. Yeah. Very excited. This is awesome.
Already on any?
Yeah,
I probably want to make sure that some school committee members that look like me get to go to Costa Rica.
Right.
Yeah, are there spots for chaperones? No, just kidding.
I'll pay my
There's
way
room
around.
for chaperones.
Start your
Okay.
I'll sell cupcakes, let's go.
Yeah.
Speak a little Spanish, too.
There you
Can't
go.
wait to hear about it.
Cupcake Charlie's gonna be in heaven.
Let's go. Let's roll. It was a tentative
Yes.
concession, consensus.
Great,
That's what I want.
wonderful.
NEASC, Mr. Clents?
So my initial hope was to have the entire draft done by this point, not to make excuses, but there were a few other things going on last week that took up a little bit of time. And at this point, the report is still on schedule to be submitted by or before February 1st. I have been in touch with Kathy Montagano.
Montagano.
We're pretty good when I do call up with some logistical questions, because now, as we are at the writing point, I would rather ask what it is that she's looking for and then write it, as opposed to trying a draft and having to go back and redo something else. Keeping it in a Google Doc, I think we're up to about 14 pages single-spaced right now, and that's through most of the general recommendations. I started there because the highlighted recommendations, as I have said to this committee before, that we have discussed a little bit more, those will be a little bit lengthier, but those are a little bit more prepared. So we are still on point. As soon as that draft, and Superintendent Legault, Assistant Superintendent Dr. Williams, they haven't yet seen the drafts either. As soon as it's ready to go, I will be happy, very happy to share it out and, and come back and answer any questions that may come up. But we are still on point for the reports to be submitted on schedule.
What is that schedule, if you can just remind us?
Yes, so the report is due February 1st. So at that time, what we have been tasked with is there's a number of recommendations that stem either from the 4-year report or from the original review 5 years ago, where we need to report on whether or not something is either completed, like the test completed, in progress, being planned, things of that sort. I can say right now, with about 30 some odd, we have 2 or 3 that are in progress, and the rest are considered to be completed at this point.
And they, as you present your findings, your report to this committee.
Yep.
They accept it on its face, or do they then follow up somewhere down the road to make sure you're doing what we said we were going to do?
Sure. So my understanding, and I would correct you, is that usually where I would submit it, what I will probably do is do an unofficial submission ahead of time, the couple of days ahead of time, because NIASC has been so good to work with, and say, how are we looking? I did that for the 4-year report last year. They gave me 1 or 2 areas to fill out ahead of time, which was helpful. And then they take it back, they review, ideally, probably a couple of months, but by mid to late spring, I think we will have our answer, and I remain cautiously optimistic that our accreditation will be just fine. That's what I'm hoping for. So. And and frankly, in the event that they do have, I'm ready to go with, and I've had some frank conversations, there's just, it's so voluminous that I don't want to take our time, my time, the committee's time, my lead teacher's time, to give them 200 supporting documents. They may come back and say, can you give us evidence of this or that? But we're ready to, prove our sources and cite and do whatever it is that we may need to do if there are any specifics.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions about it? No. An early college update.
Got a full update, early college and everything, and all the other
We're
alternative
incredibly excited about everything that has been happening, is going to be going on. So I'm going to give you a couple of different areas and breakdowns and strategies. So we have our Massasoit courses that are going to be starting next week. So next week, beginning next week, on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, we're going to have 2 different Massasoit college professors coming in, one teaching a course in general psychology and one teaching a course in intro to criminal justice. Those are going to be offered. One course has 16 students registered, the other has 17 students registered. Staff members, we have been in touch with them. And this is all at no cost to our students. So they're coming in. The resources are going to be digital. It's a long cry from when I was in school. There are no $300 textbooks that need to be purchased or anything like that. But we are ready to go, and that will run on a college semester timeline. So from beginning on Monday the 30th, and then that will go through that way. Our Fire Science Academy continues to be healthy and robust. Our 2 students have both completed a course in Massasoit, the Essentials of Emergency Services. At least one student is registered for an EMT course, and that is just what it sounds like through Massasoit Community College. That starts next week. I do want to give Sam, the student who is doing it, a tremendous amount of credit. I think she's looking at approximately 10 to 12 hours per week outside of school. She actually changed jobs so that she could get a job that would allow her to work her evening hours scheduled around this, and she's spending most of her Saturday at Massasoit. So she's excited, we're excited. I told her we're going to be checking in with her a lot, not in a place but she's taking on a lot, and we want to make sure that she is supported and that she is ready to go. And if there's something that we need to do on our end, I told her all she needs to do is ask. And then starting in April, both of our students in the Fire Science Academy are scheduled to have a live in-person internship with the EBFD. So we remain in contact with Captain Kelly to figure out what needs to happen there. And again, both students are keeping their grades up. They're active. One of them's playing a winter sport right now, which is a little limiting to his schedule. But at the same time, anything that they need to make this happen, we are committed to the student. I've continued to keep a close eye on where they are. They're doing everything that they need to do that has allowed me to afford them the flexibility to make this happen.
Are they seniors or juniors?
Seniors. Both are seniors. We will, now that we have this process in place, we are going to be having interviews in the spring, probably around April or May, for prospective students that are interested in this next year. And again, they can do the same kind of thing. We might have some students that are interested in taking the course to try it out, see how they go. We might have students that run the full gamut and wind up being recognized for earning their EMT certification at graduation, which we're pretty excited about. We will be sharing this information with our current juniors, rising seniors, just as we head into the natural spring conversations around online courses, course selection, things of that sort. So that will be kind of lumped in with that traditional timeline there. We have a student police academy for which the Intro to Criminal Justice course is a prerequisite. So that's the course that we're going to be running now. Officer Connor is going to be meeting with students in the criminal justice course after a few weeks. We want to give it a little bit of time to settle in, to discuss the police academy and in a potential April interview process. So that will be looking at this year's juniors for next year. So that right now we've got our fire science academy up and running. It's just a little bit ahead, as Superintendent Legault has talked about, and that by this time next year we're going to have them both kind of running on parallel tracks there. And then the sessions will begin after the course ends, after that criminal justice course ends, which will be starting as early as this May. It'll be running for 5 weeks, studying forensics. They're going to be working with our canine officer. They're going to be working on some drill, cadence, things of that sort. Courses are being coordinated through Officer Connor, our SRO, and through Chief O'Brien, and obviously through Superintendent Legault, Dr. Williams, and myself. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that. And we'll be looking at the possibility of fall internship opportunities for those students that start with the criminal justice course, then progress through this in the spring, and then we could be looking at that in the fall. And then again, looking at our early college courses that we're offering, we're looking at bringing them back. We had 1 course in the fall, 2 courses this semester. We're cautiously optimistic that we can now run 2 each semester moving forward. Some combination, likely of the same courses. Sociology, again, possibly adding an intro to business course, which is something that there seems to be an interest in. I have no doubt we could fill that. At the same time, part of it is the teaching staff that are available to us at any given semester by Massasoit. So we kind of have probably what will be like 4 or 5 courses that we hope to run through cyclically, a couple each semester.
I have a couple of quick questions, and I'm sorry in advance. So I think all of this is tremendous. I think it's where the state is moving. I think we're on top of it, and I think that's great. But one thing we continue to hear at our meetings is concerns around scheduling. So can you talk a little bit about where this falls in students' schedules and maybe like lessons learned? Because I think like we are interested in supporting this conversation and anyway.
So the Massasoit, there is a certain element of you have the outside world, which runs on a typical Monday through Friday schedule, as most humans do. And then you have a rotating schedule that a lot of high schools run. Right now, we are able to have these courses come in and they are taught during Viking block. So we're able to do that. That continues to be our plan. That's a set time every day, and that works there. So that's one thing that is working. As we continue to take a look at our bell schedule for next year, that's something that does come up in the NEASC report. There are some limitations there. I have yet to see any high school that says we have found the perfect schedule. If they did, everyone would run that one. There are unique challenges with it. One of the things that we have talked about, and there have been conversations with the instructional leadership team, with the school-based administration, we've come back, I've spoken with Superintendent Legault and Assistant Superintendent Williams. One of the things that we're taking a look at, however, is trying to find a schedule that has a set time in it outside of Viking, and this is the idea. It hasn't been fully formulated yet, but has a set time in it that affords for all of the things that we are looking to move towards. It affords for internships. It affords for, I mean, we have some grants that are allowing, we have 6 of our students right now that are going to be going this spring to the Mitchell and to Central School that are interested in education, that are going to be going in, and that's actually a paid opportunity through the grant for those students. If we have a time in the schedule, whether it be certain days or some, and I'm making it like 1 o'clock is internship block, something like that, then the floodgates of possibilities open. So that's the 2 concepts that we are trying to mirror and marry and bring together. But we are under a time constraint because everything falls backwards, and within the next couple of weeks, we're going to have to come to a final decision point on that.
And I also ask this in the spirit of knowing that, like, we're continuing to talk about more opportunities for this, so I don't mean to say that these conversations aren't happening. I'm also curious, and this goes along with scheduling too, about are students receiving dual credit for this, or are they receiving high school credit for these courses as well?
So students right now are receiving high school credit and 3 college credits upon completion of this college course. So they are receiving that. One of the things that we are discussing and looking at as we continue to move towards the early college is looking at bringing in early college courses to be taught by, and this is in the discussion, nothing's been decided, to be taught by our current faculty.
Yep.
And it could coexist along the lines of AP, as an
Yeah.
example. Now, as someone who's going to have 2 high schoolers in 2 years, and I'm looking at what's there, when you take it, and if I'm telling you something you already know, forgive me, but if you take an AP course, that's an AP course, it's certified, in theory, it's the same here, Indiana, California, whatever. We're a little bit behind the ball because our school year starts a few weeks later, and AP courses are on the same day across the nation. However, if you take an AP course, it's a full year course built into a high school schedule. AP teachers have to go through their own training to get there. And then students sit for a test. Probably many of us may have taken an AP test. And if you score high enough on that test, the receiving college or institution is at the discretion whether or not they choose to award you college credit or not. More frequently now, what typically happens is one doesn't get college credit, but if you score a 4 or 5 on the test, you may be excused from an intro level course. You might not have to take English 101, but you still have to take another English course, and you can just jump out of that initial survey course. Every college, every university is different. Dr. Williams had a conversation around her own children and what, different rules that different schools had in terms of accepting college credit. Having said that, this is the opportunity for students to receive college credit. Like the best possible option of that. It's college credits, it's issued by Massasoit or whatever institution we are partnering with, and then it is much easier if, for receiving college, we're like, yes, we accept and give you credit for those 3, 6, in a year or 2, God willing, we could be up to as many as 12 college credits for, and if anybody has had those conversations around cost of school and things with that, and what you're looking at per credit, it's a real opportunity to kind of grow and push forward. But that's a long answer to say we might be getting to a point where it could be, and as a former AP English teacher, our students might take AP English, or they might take a English early college course as we get there. So some of these, what I just went through, are the things that are most black and white, we're ready to go, we're offering, or we will be offering, and some of them are a little bit more in the pipeline and being talked about and planned, but coming from there.
Yeah, and you preempted my last question, and I will stop talking, about working with our teachers as well, because I think this is a real professional development opportunity for them. I know if we're talking about like the early college consortium, like some of that is built into a designation process about how college and high school faculty work together, and I think that may at least support some of our scheduling issues, so I think that's a good idea.
In the conversation, are talking about, depending on which institution we are looking at, the colleges may offer a stipend to our teaching staff so that they are then receiving additional financial compensation. And again, I'm using English because that's not in the conversation right now, everybody takes it, but it could be the kind of thing where maybe we offer this instead of AP English, or we have multiple sections of AP English. We may have one section of AP because we do want to keep our options and our opportunities open to students. Change is different, change is new, change is scary. AP's been around forever and people know what it is, and it's still a fine course with a lot of rigor attached to it. And we're not saying we're going to blow it all out of the water, but we want to have as many opportunities as we can for our students.
Absolutely.
So,
Thank you.
Of course.
Bill and I had this conversation along with the consortium. The consortium has a point person now working for us, and they go out and they work with the other school districts. We know today I was told that Norton has about 7 teachers, and Holbrook has now has about 6 teachers that are ready to go, and they've, looking at syllabus, their own syllabus, and then they'll, say Bridgewater State is one of ours, they'll give us the syllabus, and one of our teachers would teach it, they would get the 3 credits here, it'd be during our time, and we can do that.
Yeah.
Which, the conversation then goes from that to working with our own union and our EBA association. And I know for a fact that on Tuesday or Wednesday of last week, that point person was here, meeting with an AP teacher or faculty member and the union president. And they met for actually 2 hours.
Yeah, that's great.
And I think they hashed out a lot of the, where are we going to do this in the schedule? And how much do you get paid? And what does it do to AP? And what does it do to this? And I think what we don't want to take anything away. We just want to offer more. And if you can offer, like Bill's using English AP. Well, okay, we'll offer English AP, but we're also offering English 395.
Right.
And 395 is going to get 3 credits, and these 3 credits could be Massasoit, Bridgewater, transferred into Stonehill, Wheaton, I don't know, Boston College. There are students that are going to want to take always AP, and then there's going to be some students that are going to want to take the 3 credit. And if we can offer both of those without losing any of the frameworks and what we need to do for the Commonwealth, or from DESE, then we'll do that. But I think the conversation now, it took us a long time to get here. I think the conversation's on the table now. And we're getting classes, and we've got the first round. I do believe that the consortium will know in April that we'll get accredited, and I do believe we'll get accredited, and so that will help us get more grants.
Yeah, and I also just want to call, we're a small district, so all these conversations, I can imagine, are, you came in here a couple months ago about, we didn't know if we were going to be able to offer these courses, and there's a demand, and this year doesn't mean there's going to be a demand next year, so just want to,
The nice part,
accept
though,
that.
working in the
Good.
consortium, we have amongst us, have 40,000 students.
That's great.
And Brockton is with us, and Taunton is with us, and Norton, and Holbrook, and Avon. We're pretty diverse, and we go around, but the nice part is, Brockton already has Massasoit as a partner. So that's been a great conversation. Bridgewater State, we have a partnership at the Central Elementary School with the student teachers that come over in the teaching program. So that's where we're already sort of in the door.
Yeah.
I know that we're working with Wheaton, Stonehill,
Middlesex?
Middlesex is another one. So there's a lot of, and Attleboro's with us, so, and King Philip. So we know that King Philip already has with Middlesex.
Yeah.
They have, I think, 4 teachers teaching the curriculum that they get, and I'm not sure the courses, Bill, but I know that you've talked to some people, or talked to the principals. So I think we're moving in the right direction. I'm excited about it, and if we can help people, or help our parents and their kids take a college course and save some money, we'd like to do that, and still offer AP at the same time.
I will say that the 2 quick things is that King Philip has been a little bit just ahead of us and has really offered some helpful insight in terms of, there are some families like, that looks good. I took AP when I was in school, so my kid's going to take AP. Fine. And there's other ones that are going there. But if there's one thing, I think, that has been my favorite experience from this, there are some students that have sat in this library, have taken a college course, taught by a college professor, having sat in, and it is a college course, that did not think college was on the table for them. It just wasn't something that they had considered. It wasn't something they considered academically, in their future, financially, and they have a taste of success. And these, not all of them, but there are some students that participated in this that bluntly have not had a lot of academic success in their past. And to see that, that's why we do this.
Yeah,
It's
we should be doing it.
It's really awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you for
of course.
entertaining me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else have any other questions?
Mrs. Pennington, that budget discussion where it says FY '24, those are my notes on the bottom of that day that we put the agenda together. I think it was pushed up there because obviously, there's no budget discussion because the budget subcommittee hasn't come forward with anything. So that was, I don't know if you remember, but I was writing them down, and I think they were put on the
Skip
agenda
past it.
inadvertently. And so that's my,
We can skip it.
yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Clement.
Thank you very much,
Thank you so
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Next up, we have public comment section. Is anybody here for public comment? No? Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for sitting through our meeting. So we have, under the action items, we have Dr. Williams, Assistant Superintendent, has reviewed the home education plan for the enclosed student for the 22-23 school year, and I would make a motion to accept this home education plan for the student.
So moved.
Moved by Amanda,
Second?
second by Scott, and it's recommended by Superintendent Legault. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. And I take a motion to approve the minutes from January 10th of 2023, regular school committee meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Amanda,
Second?
second by Scott, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I take a motion to approve accounts payable warrant 31 SV dated 1/25/23.
So moved.
Moved by Amanda,
Second?
second by Scott, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I would take a motion to approve payroll warrant 30 PS dated 1/18/23.
So moved.
Moved by Amanda,
Second?
second by Scott, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And before we end our meeting, I just want to mention that we have, the East Bridgewater Music Parents Association is having a mattress fundraiser this Saturday from, January 28th, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And they won't just be selling mattresses, they're also selling pillows and, let's see, there was a mattress protector here. This is a plug for the, oh, there's lots of good stuff. Yeah, there's lots of stuff here. So, and they're at really good prices. So if you need a mattress or a pillow or a beanbag chair, or just want to come on down, I'm sure they're selling baked goods too.
Tissue massage.
Come on down, say hello. Oh, the baked goods are free. You can come down and have a free brownie. I hope they get a lot of people.
Might be overpromising.
Or cookie. Superintendent Legault, you have anything else before I, at this time, would take a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Amanda,
Second?
second by Gordon. Scott gave you a turn.
We're in a rhythm here.
Earning our pay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everybody.